everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Building a Successful Campaign with SEMRush and Textbroker webinar. My name is David Black, and I'm the Head of Customer Relations here in our SEMRush North American office. I started out in customer support and helped make that department successful, but nowadays I get to utilize my audio-video skills to develop web content like this, these tutorials and SEMrush Pro tips and webinar presentations in an effort to increase customer success with our product. So I'm certified in both Google and Bing AdWords platforms, and I also have a long history in self-taught SEO and web development. So with that being said, I'd like to impart some wisdom and show you how to use SEMrush not only to improve your Textbroker orders, but of course build a solid PPC campaign from the ground up. So what is SEMrush? Well, SEMrush is the web's leading search marketing and keyword research tool. Our domain is amongst the top 500 websites on Alexa, both locally and globally. So hopefully that'll help reinforce some of this trust in our data that I'm going to show you today. And a lot of people may have heard of us but don't know exactly what we do or how we do it. So we have a database of the top 95 million keywords worldwide. And on a regular basis, usually as often as every day, we're automatically querying our keywords and recording the first two SERPs for each of these keywords. So this means we're collecting hundreds of millions of search engine results pages and constantly analyzing SERP data. So it's a huge database. And as you know, the larger the sample size, the more accurate it's going to be. Okay, so it's going to make Google way more transparent, and it's going to give search marketers insight into their competitors' traffic statistics, organic keywords that are driving traffic to their website, and paid ads that their competitors are bidding on. So that sounds great. But how does this actually help you? Well, SEMrush promotes efficiency, so it's going to pay off immediately and in the long run, especially when using it in conjunction with a platform like Textbroker. So immediately you're using SEMrush to essentially bypass the experimental phase of constructing your PPC campaign. So you're saving money by targeting the right keywords the first time, instead of throwing everything at the wall and seeing how it sticks and seeing how it performs. That might actually exhaust your initial budget on ads that produce unwanted click-through and don't convert. So in the long run, it's going to have like a trickle-down effect. In addition to seeing results much quicker, you're already jump-starting your campaign with effective ads. So Google considers the performance history of your ads when determining your quality score. And high quality scores, as you know, often lead to lower cost per click. So where to begin? Well, these are the steps to a successful campaign. You can consider this the table of contents for the webinar. And to start off with a little backstory, once I've actually read an article that provided some general food for thought when building a PPC campaign, and what struck me as odd is that they listed competitor analysis as the last part or the last step in that process. And to me, I don't know if it's just because I'm biased because I work at SEMrush, but to me that's kind of like putting the horse before the cart, because you're supposed to do your research first. So when I list out these bullet points for the webinar, I'm going to put competitor analysis right up front. And then after you assess the competition, you can move on to keyword research, drilling down on their keywords in order to get a better idea of what you should be purchasing. And then once you have your keywords, of course, you want to create ads copy that's going to be triggered by those keywords. And talk a little bit about campaign organization. So you'll have to structure your campaign a certain way based around your goals. And I'll get into a little bit of that. Not a lot, but I'll get into it. And then, everything always ends up on a nice landing page. Someone clicks through from an ad, they end up on a nice landing page. So I figured landing pages would be a great way to close out the entire webinar. And that's kind of where Textbroker comes in, and it's a great way to, of course, wrap everything up. So knowing who you're up against, that's what competitor analysis is all about. So here on the right, we see our buddy Scorpion and his competitor, our buddy Sub-Zero on the right, and his competitor Scorpion on the left. So, Sub-Zero, he knows everything about Scorpion, right? Because he's been engaged in Mortal Kombat with him since the dawn of time. He knows what makes him tick. He knows what works for him and what doesn't work for him. And that's how you have to be when you're in your efforts for competitor analysis. Unfortunately, we can't all be like Sub-Zero and be from this tribe of assassins who practice the dark arts on a daily basis. And we definitely don't have a millennia to study our competitors. But what we do actually have is SEMrush. Okay, so most have an idea of who their competitors are, but I always like to ask, have you really assess the competitive landscape of a search engine results page. Do you really know which advertisers are bidding on keywords that could potentially drive traffic to your page? And the answer is that most haven't, and most don't. But SEMrush makes it really easy to get you started on that path of competitor analysis. And there's a few ways to do it. There's actually a couple ways. So you can do this by keyword. You can research a keyword in our software and actually find out who is currently bidding on that keyword, all the advertisers that are appearing on the SERPs, now and in the past as well, and I'll show you how to do that. And you can also use our pre-made competitors reports that are specifically designed for this actual purpose. So during the webinar, I'm going to bounce between these slides and a live demo of the software. I apologize if you see me switching in the act of switching, but unfortunately that's the best way that I can do it. So now I'm going to switch over to the software and show you exactly how to locate your competition. Okay, so here we are in the SEMrush interface. We're here at the dashboard. This is what you'll see when you first log in, and there's a lot to the tool, but right now we're going to focus on how to locate your competition. All right, and we can do this by, like I said, first by keyword. So let's say, for example, we are an online retailer of picture frames. So we can just pick a very generalized keyword like picture frames, of course, and type that into our software. You're going to end up arriving at a keyword summary portal. It's basically, like I said, it's a portal. It's going to allow you to access larger reports. And beside keyword data, of course, you also get your phrase match report and your related keywords report, trends graphs. But underneath that is the real heart of what we want to look at. You see, as I mentioned, SEMrush is collecting SERP data. We're actually using that as part of our source data in order to come up with a lot of the metrics that you see on SEMrush. So we're taking these search engine results pages and we're dissecting them. We're pulling them apart in order to show you the most relevant information and break it down and show you exactly what you want to see. So right here we're looking at the organic results, but just underneath that, this is what we want to focus on. We want to focus on what's in the ads results. And here that we see as recently as November 4th, which was yesterday, we updated this keyword and we found 11 different domains that are currently bidding on this keyword. This is a great starting point for your competitor analysis because you now know 11 different competitors that you can research further and figure out what they're doing in their ads campaigns in order to replicate it and bank off of their success. Okay? And that's just one way to go about it. If we want, we can actually use what I mentioned earlier, where the actual competitors reports. And what's great about that is we can do this by domain. Now, normally what you would want to do is actually type in your own domain to see who you're competing with in ads. But let's just assume, for the sake of this example, that we are pictureframes.com. Okay, so under advertising research branch of the navigation menu, we're going to go to the competitors report. And what this is going to do is it's going to automatically analyze all of the domains that are bidding on the same kind of common keywords that pictureframes.com is also bidding on. It's going to aggregate them all in one place. So instead of 11, you can see here you have almost 2,500 to choose from. And this is sorted by our competition level algorithm that's taking all these common keywords into account and sorting through everything in order to figure out who your biggest competition is. Okay? So as we can see here, it's listing that framesbymail.com and customframesolutions.com are our top competitors in terms of the keywords that they're bidding on. So with this report, we've actually identified some of those major players in our competitive landscape. And now we can start looking at their keywords specifically to figure out which are going to be the most effective and benefit our campaign the most. And this comes down to keyword research. So proper keyword research is going to help you find the most effective keywords to target in your PPC campaign. And SEMrush provides all the necessary data and tools to conduct your keyword research. While you're conducting your keyword research, you really want to ask yourself some questions and get a little analytical about it. So the first question you should ask yourself is, what is the user intent behind this keyword? More importantly, will a click on this keyword, when the searcher looks for this keyword, is a click on my ad going to result in conversion? That's one thing that you have to ask yourself. Now the next question is, how relevant is the keyword? See, search marketers typically use popularity of a keyword to decide whether to commit it to their campaign or not. So we'll look at how SEMrush can help you do that. And the last question is, can you afford to bid on this keyword? Very simple question that you should always ask yourself. We currently have a couple reports and tools that make keyword research much more efficient. So I'd like to show you how those work. And I'm going to switch back to the interface for that. One of the reports that I like to use is called Domain versus Domain, and there are a couple ways to get to it. It's underneath the Tools section of our navigation menu, but also from this competitors report, we actually make it really easy to get there. So we can take pictureframes.com and we can look at them in reference to framesbymail.com. By clicking on this common keywords cell right here, this is going to take you to a pre-made domain versus domain report. As you can see, pictureframes.com and frames by mail are already populated in the fields automatically. So on the third field, I want to add that third competitor I spoke about earlier. So that's customframesolutions.com. Now we make it really easy to analyze the shared keywords of all three of these domains. So what I want to do, the goal of using this report is to be able to see all the common keywords shared by all three of those domains, specifically what they're bidding on in ads. So I've put in all three domains. I'm going to choose AdWords, make sure AdWords is set underneath all three. Switch that one there. And there are many ways to actually set up this report depending on the outcome that you'd like to see. Common keywords is just one of them, but that's what I'm going to stick with for the sake of this example right now. So if you wanted to see more on how this tool works in depth, you can actually watch a video tutorial after this webinar, or there's a help section that you can refer to as well. But for right now, like I said, common keywords. So we're going to make sure that is selected between both these and click go. Okay, so now you're looking at almost 2,000 keywords that all three of these domains, oh, I apologize. Be nice if I set it up properly. Okay, so you're looking at 1,100 keywords that all three of these domains are currently bidding on. This is in live updating mode, so even as recently as today, these are the 1,100 something keywords that all three of these domains are bidding on. We're going to show you the actual keyword and where each one of those ranks for. That's a very popular feature. And this is great, So as you can see, this is a great way to conduct your keyword research because you're looking at the common keywords being bid on by multiple competitors. Now, if one competitor bids on a keyword, that's great, that's cool. But when three competitors bid on the same keyword, it's kind of hard to ignore, right? So now that we have this list of keywords to target, let's say, again, for the sake of this webinar, these are the keywords that we've decided we wanted to target. Now we can start drilling down on them and getting a little bit more analytical and ask ourselves those questions from earlier. Okay, so one of those questions, not to get out of order, but one of those questions is how relevant is the keyword? So, and that's easily answered right here. Search marketers usually use the search volume for that keyword to determine relevancy, and that's exactly how this report is sorted. So we're showing you the most popular keywords that all three of these guys are bidding on right up front. The next question is, how or can I afford this keyword? Sorry, and that's a great question. And that's why we also provide the approximate cost per click for each keyword. So this is an approximation of what most are paying, and you can actually sort this column by CPC. You can sort it by competition level for the keyword, any way you like, in order to determine what works best for you. Okay, and the last question that we wanted to ask ourselves, was what is the user intent behind the keyword? Actually, that was the first question, but I am jumping around. And I think the best way to illustrate user intent or how to figure it out, For example, when we're looking at a keyword like, let's see if I can pull it up again. Hold on one moment. Okay, so we're looking at a few of these keywords, and they're pretty easy to figure out what somebody is looking for when they type it in, except for this keyword. Let's use this as an example. This is a classic example because it's one of those words that has a few different meanings. So someone could type this in and they're looking for picture frames. Someone could type in this keyword and they may be looking for eyeglass frames. It's a common term that's synonymous with eyeglasses and sunglasses. So how do we know what the user is actually looking for? Okay, easy way to determine this, at least I think what's an easy way to determine this, would be to use a report called the Ads History Report. And I actually have it loaded up here already, but just to show you what I did, if I type that keyword into SEMrush and then I go down to keyword research, since we're looking for a keyword, and then click the Ads History Report, that's going to take me to the Ads History Report for this particular keyword. And what we're looking at is all the domains that have purchased this keyword over the last 12 months. So this is what we've kept a record of, and we're showing all the domains that have purchased this keyword over the last 12 months. The blocks that are in blue indicate when we found an ad for that particular domain for this particular keyword, and the number inside of it indicates the position in which we found their ad. Clicking on that ad will actually collapse another menu, but I'll show you more about that later. So what do I see when I look at this? Well, I see the user intent behind this keyword. When I look at the domains that are purchasing these, none of these advertisers sell eyeglasses. You see we have Bed Bath & Beyond, Pottery Barn, Things Remembered, pictureframes.com, of course, Frames USA, Frames by Mail. Those are the guys that constantly bid on that keyword. You'll notice some of them don't bid on it as often, but there is a lot of grouping over in November, December, and October, usually around August and September. I don't know why, but that seems to be a big time for people who want picture frames. Maybe there's a lot of events that happen that time or around that time, so these guys who sell different stuff too, not just picture frames, they bid on that keyword while the getting is good. But I digress. The important part here is that you'll notice that none of these advertisers actually sell eyeglass. It's only those who sell picture frames. And to me, that's actually proof positive of user intent. You see, if users are searching for picture frames when they type in the keyword frames, then eyeglass retailers will see no ROI on that keyword, and therefore they won't continue to bid on that keyword. It's kind of just common sense, So when you see there's no eyeglass retailers bidding on this keyword, it's because they don't make any money off of it. Okay? And that's what I love to use to illustrate those few points. So you have your keyword research and user intent. Now, if for some reason you're not sure whether you should still bid on a keyword, when I move on to this next section about ads copy, there's actually a very cool metric that I'd like you to pay attention to, and I'll show you that in order to help you understand whether you should continue to bid on an ad word or to pursue a particular keyword in ads. All right, so now I'm going to switch back. And now we've reached the section about ads copy. So let's say hypothetically you've got your keywords in that list that you want to target. You've figured it out, what's got great user intent, what can you afford, and how relevant is everything. So now we need to create some highly relevant and effective ads copy. So ads copy, as you may know, of course, is extremely crucial to the success of your campaign. So many campaigns actually have the tendency to fail simply because their ads copy falls flat. I've seen it happen a lot. And that's because it directly impacts conversions and traffic. The more relevant your ad is to the searcher's needs, the better chance that they'll convert, of course, right? So it's also your chance, it's also your window of opportunity. Compelling ads copy is the best way to grab the searcher's attention. It's actually one of the only ways. So just like our section on keyword research, there are some very similar methods to find great examples of effective ads copy using the SEMrush software. Now I'm going to jump back to the software and show you exactly how to do that. One of those ways is by researching a domain. So you saw earlier we researched a keyword, but now we're going to research a domain. And I'm going to start off with a simple domain search for, one of our competitors. Okay? And let's say we are a online retailer of light bulbs. We can simply type their domain into SEMrush, and we're going to land on their domain report. This is very similar to that keyword report that we saw earlier. It's like a portal. It goes to much larger, more in-depth reports. And what we can do is access their advertising keywords report. So I'll go ahead and explain a little bit about what you're seeing here. Right? It looks a little complicated at first, but it's just rows and cells and columns and data and just numbers. So it's really, when you break it down, it's really not much. The ones you want to pay attention to over here are these overview blocks and, of course, your ads keywords blocks. That's the most essential part. So we supply data not only in relation to the domain, not only for organic traffic and value, but also ads traffic and their budgets. So as you can see here, we're looking at their ads traffic. We see that they're getting roughly 20,800 click-throughs from the keywords that we found. That's very important that you understand that. For these 15,961 keywords, almost 16,000 keywords, that we're estimating they're getting roughly 20,000, 21,000 click-throughs. And their budget toward those keywords is roughly $25,000. We estimate that based on a number of factors and signals that we look at for the keywords, and then also for the relevant keyword data. So if we go below, we'll get to the real heart of what we're actually looking for here. And it's contained in this report. This is the ads keywords report. 16,000 keywords that we can work with and drill down on in order to look at their ads copy and see what we can pick and choose from that. Okay, so we have the keyword itself. These are the keywords that they're bidding on. This is the position that we actually saw the ad appear when we last updated this keyword, and that last updated number is actually right here. So you can see some of these were updated 8, 9, 10 hours ago. It's barely nothing compared to how we used to do it. We used to do it on a monthly basis, but now SEMrush is updating everything so frequently. I'm almost actually amazed myself at how quickly some of the keywords update. Just to jump back here, so now we have the monthly search volume for this particular keyword and the approximate cost per click again. Every ad actually has a visible URL associated with it. These are the actual URLs that appear in the ads copy. So these are the visible URLs that are associated with the ads copy. If you see, I can hover over the ad column and actually show the text associated with that ad. That's exactly what we're looking for. And as you can see, that visible URL appears in there. One thing is that it doesn't always redirect to that particular URL. So you can actually see the invisible URL, as I like to call it, where these landing pages go. So that's another great thing I'd like to point out there. Okay. The most important part of this particular report are these traffic percentage and cost percentage metrics. Of course, beside the ads copy that we're looking for, the traffic percentage and cost percentage metrics are going to tell you what percentage of the traffic and the budget is being allocated or comes from this particular keyword. And people really love to see that, because essentially what we're doing is we're putting the most popular ads right up front. So we're saying, in terms of traffic, their ad for Christmas lights, he's got a keyword search volume of 49,500. By virtue of the search volume and where they rank for that keyword, it's generating about 3% of that total ads traffic. So 3% of 21,000 is coming from this ad, and this is their most relevant ad. This is their most traffic-bringing ad in terms of all the ads in this particular report. And the cost percentage metric tells you basically the same thing, just related to their budget. So if you want to see what somebody spends the most on, again, here we are. You can sort it by cost percentage and see that they're spending the most on Christmas lights based off of the search volume and the position, and then we factor in that average cost per click in order to determine how much they're spending on a single ad. So that's almost 3.6% of that $25,000 budget is being allocated toward ads. That's another great metric, as I mentioned earlier, that you can use in order to determine whether you should bid on a keyword or not. So if you're still not sure, pay attention to that cost percentage metric, because what this is showing you is how much they're allocating their budget towards that. If they continue, if you watch this month to month or week to week and you see that it's staying the same or even increasing, that is a great gauge that you say, okay, if they're increasing their budget or even keeping it the same toward this keyword, that's a keyword that I'd like to explore, and that's exactly how you'd want to do it. Now, also with this report, you may want to focus or hone in on a particular set of keywords. So let's say one of the keywords that has appeared in our list is halogen light bulbs, right? So what I can do is actually filter for the keyword halogen and isolate all the keywords that contain the word halogen. Now, as soon as this loads up, I'll show you. Sorry, you may hear me take a sip of my water from time to time. Okay. So with SEMrush, you have the ability to stack multiple filters on top of each other, which I think is a great feature. And you can do a lot of your work already in SEMrush without dumping it out to a third-party program. So as you can see, there's about 730 keywords based on just our criteria in the filter. So if you wanted to isolate, drill down even further, let's say you wanted only keywords that had to do with halogen bulbs or halogen lights with a search volume over, over 200 or something, you can do that. And you can do that very easily. And then what you're left with is these ads that you can go through. And as you see, most of them are pretty much the same. But you can tell which ones belong to certain ads groups because keywords trigger a specific ad. So then once you have all the information you need, you can then export that to 3 different versions. You got 2 versions of CSV and then also Excel, an XLS format that you can take and actually have all of that ads copy right in front of your face in a third-party program instead of having to hover over. So that's great for finding your ads copy. Another way you can do that is just like we did it before, just by typing in a keyword. When we wanted to find our competitors, we typed in a keyword. And we can do the same thing if we want to find all the ads copy associated with our competitors' ads for a particular keyword. So we go back down to this organic results, and underneath that we're back at the ad results. And we have just a little condensed down version here where we've taken everything from that SERP page and condensed it down, and now you can do the same thing. You can hover over this and see all of your competitors' ads. And that's great for a little snapshot. Of course, you can export that again. And that's great for a little snapshot. But sometimes just researching one competitor or one group of ads that appeared on a certain date, may not be exactly enough. I don't want to say that it's not enough, but sometimes it may not be enough. So what we can do is go back to that ads history report. I love history because history is a great way to forecast everything. You can forecast your spending. You can look back on what people used to do instead of seeing it just in this particular moment of time. We're going to go back and actually look at the history for this keyword. We looked at the history for frames earlier, but I already have this loaded up here. Okay, so one of the first examples I'm going to cite, actually, I use that in this tutorial video here, is for a domain called Jerry's Artorama. They're a big online supplier of different art supplies. They carry a lot of brands and a lot of different art supplies, of course. So what I've done is I've already gone through, and this is a domain query. So we've typed in the domain, and then under the advertising research, we've gone to ads history because it's a domain query, so it's not a keyword query. Before we did it under here, but we're doing it under domain this time. Okay, so now instead of the domains that purchased a keyword, we're looking at all the keywords that a domain has purchased. It's kind of like the flip side of that other report that we were looking at. And while going through this report, I found a few examples of that kind of illustrate that idea of what's working and what doesn't for your competitors. And if we look at Jerry's Artorama, their particular ads from month to month, we can see that there's some different patterns. And these are things that you have to recognize in order to distinguish what is working for your competitor and what doesn't. So we look at Prismacolor pencils. We're scrolling through their ads text. You see it all looks relatively the same, But one thing you may notice is that once we land on May, I'm sorry, once we land on April, you can see that they've now showed a different URL for their ads. So each one of them has their own relevant landing page associated with the ad. Same thing with watercolor brushes here. Nothing in that URL, nothing in that URL. We hit April and it changes. So they've added this /watercolor and /prismacolor. And also down here we see this, another third example is another great example. Copic markers, they've done the same thing. And what that's showing you is that they've changed their particular strategy and then they've kept it that way. If you continue to scroll through, you see that landing page stays exactly the same. And what that tells you is that it's not having a negative impact on their ads. If it were having some sort of negative impact on their ads, they would have changed it. So that particular strategy is working for them. Maybe it's instilling some sort of a trust in the end user that's saying, okay, so if I click on this ad, it's not just going to take me to jerrysartorama.com. It's actually going to take me to artorama.com/Prismacolor, and I'm going to be able to get what I want. And that's all happening in the mind of the user. And ads copy is very psychological when you think about it, because it's your only time to actually grab the user's attention. So again, this is an example of what works, and I think it's a great example. So let's look at an example of what doesn't work. I feel that's just as important. So I've typed in a different domain. We're back looking at 1000bulbs.com. I don't know what my fascination with light bulbs is, but this is another great example that I use in the video tutorial. So knowing what doesn't work is just as important as knowing what works. And I'm taking a look at this halogen light bulb keyword. And I'm looking at the ads that are associated. So I'm starting in November 2012. I've clicked on this thing and I've collapsed the drop-down menu. And I'm showing that their ads look pretty good. Halogen light bulbs for less, 1000bulbs.com. There's a post in the middle and it's got the domain and huge savings on par 14. And then the next month looks good to me. But in January, they change something. They do something weird. They inject what looks like a brand name for maybe a particular halogen light bulb, Ushio light bulb. For whatever reason, it's obvious that this didn't work for that particular, whether they've made a mistake or what. It's obvious that this doesn't work, because when we skip through back to February and March, April, so on and so forth, those ads do not look anything like what happened in January. They actually look more like December and November. So they learned that this ad no longer performed as well as it should have. So what they did was they went back and they changed it and kept it that way. So it's telling you that this doesn't work, don't do this. And that's just, again, that's just as important that's just as important as knowing what does work. Okay? And one last example I'd like to show you. We've been looking at the domain version of this report, but let's look at the keyword version of this report. So you're trying to figure out what ads you can associate with a particular keyword. And again, we're looking at ads history for keywords. I've typed in this keyword, motorcycle goggles, and now I'm pulling up again all the domains that ranked for this keyword or have bid on this keyword over the course of the last 12 months. And as we can see here, I've already isolated two competitors. We have JP Cycles and BikeBandit.com. Okay, so when we look at the history of the ads for this keyword by JP Cycles, we can see that they tend to change in the beginning as we scroll through, and then it stops changing. Once we get to, sorry, I passed it. Once we get to January 2013, it stops changing because they introduced the year that they were established into the ads copy in the body of that ads text. So shortly after that final change, it looks like BikeBandit.com has followed suit. Now, a month later, they're also including the date that they were established. So it's reflecting the ads of JP Cycles. And both advertisers haven't changed those ads since. That's what I'm trying to get at here, which is very long-windedly. So as you can see, as we keep on scrolling through, the ads remain the same, they stay uniform, and they stay steady. So what that is telling you is that it's working, not only just for one competitor like we looked at the art supply company, but also for multiple competitors. So something about that, again, maybe psychologically, it's instilling some sort of trust in the end user to say, hey, we've been around since 1979 or 1999, which to me doesn't sound that long, but that we've been around since 1999, so you should purchase from us because we've been in business that long and we're great. So of course, what works for one vertical isn't always going to work for another one, especially if it's in a geographic location. But that's where you have to use your judgment. So at least with SEMrush, you have a great tool at your disposal to get that information that you need for your ads copy. Now I'm going to switch back to our slides. So next we'll talk about, let's say again, we're moving along, hypothetically we have our keywords that we want to target, we have our ads copy. So now we can talk about having a well-organized campaign. And I'm not going to talk about this a lot in depth. There's a ton of information online, but I'll just go into it a little bit because I feel as though it's important. So there's a number of benefits to having a well-organized campaign, and I think Google themselves actually say it best. So it's going to help you determine which ads are driving optimal traffic and conversion to your website. You're going to be able to monitor and deal with changes to your campaign much more efficiently. You'll have better control over your budgets and spending, and it's going to make navigation of your account all that much easier. So in addition to those benefits, your campaign is meant to provide you with some really useful data about your audience. So the best advice that I can give you is to think about what you'd like to be able to measure with the results of your campaign, and then work backwards from there in order to figure out how to set it up. So here's a few questions that you may want to ask yourself when coming up with a goal for your campaign. Some things to consider. First, will the campaign be geographically targeted? So whether it's a local or international, if you're organizing by region, it's going to allow you to assess which keywords and ads perform the best in different geographic locations. It's just as easy as that. So you'll also have to make sure that your ads translate well in other languages. I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer, but it's funny when you see some of these international ads. So keep that in mind. So the second question, are your ads being served on multiple devices? Maybe that's going to affect how you set up your campaign, because audiences can be drastically different on mobile versus laptop or desktop, and specifically in the way queries are formulated, of course. So as you know, especially with this new Google Hummingbird algorithm, it's designed to better interpret conversational search queries, much like location and language. You're going to be able to better assess your traffic sources coming from other devices if that's what your goal is. And last but not least, what are your budgets like? There's not a lot to say about this, but maybe there's some sort of factor that's coming into play that's going to cause you to separate your campaigns by budget. So once you've considered all these ideas that can actually affect the actual structure of your campaign, you can start building it from there. Now, usually, campaigns are broken down very simplistically. One of the most common ways, of course, is to have it mirror the structure of your website. That's always pretty good practice, and it's kind of like creating a mind map. I don't know if you've ever heard that term, but you'll know what it is when you see it. So here we go. Okay, it all starts with a central idea, which is your account. And your account contains campaigns, and campaigns contain ad groups that contain the actual ad along with the keywords that trigger that ad. So armed with all your competitor data that we found on SEMrush, we can actually formulate those very tightly focused ad groups that containing our keyword lists and our effective ads copy that's going to be triggered by those keywords. So your ad should then send the user directly to a highly relevant landing page designed to drive conversions. Exactly, and that's where Textbroker comes in. Okay, so again, we're moving through. We've got our keywords, we've got our ads, we've locked down the actual structure of our ads campaign, and now you'll need some great content to help drive those conversions. And with all that great intel that you've gotten from SEMrush, you can now formulate your Textbroker orders with confidence. So you're including the keywords that you found on SEMrush. You can actually cite one or two examples of content that you found on the landing pages of your competitors' results, specifically the landing pages to where they're directing their ads. And I actually remember when we went back and I showed you how to do that little click on that little icon to open the actual landing page associated with the ad. You can cite those for your examples in your Textbroker order, which I think is great. Now, one thing that comes into play when formulating your Textbroker order is usually keyword density. Unfortunately, SEMrush does not provide the keyword density of the landing pages inside of our software. But the suggestion that I can offer is that many of you may be familiar with our free tool designed also by us here. It's actually wildly popular amongst the SEO community already, and it's a browser plugin called SEO Quake. And this is something that you can use in conjunction with SEMrush very easily to get the keyword density information very quickly. And I'll be happy to show you how to do that real quick. So let's switch back one final time to the interface so I can show you how to do this. And I've actually done a little bit of a competitor analysis of my own before doing this webinar. I watched the webinar that Textbroker did with SpyFu, and I thought that was great. So I'm going to use a little example that he used there because I think it's a better representation of landing page content. I've been using a lot of retail stuff, but I think that's a little bit of a better example. So I'm going to enable the SEO Quake toolbar. Okay, that's available for Chrome and Firefox for free, and I'll tell you where to get that later. Okay, and I'm going to use an example that they cited in the, oops, that's not it. It was grants for single mothers. Okay, so let's research this keyword. When we go down to ads, let's say we already know what kind of example we want to cite. I've decided that School Connection, they rank in the second. They rank in the second position for this particular ad, and I kind of want to emulate their landing page. So I want to cite this as an example in my Textbroker order. So as the page loads up, these toolbar parameters are going to load up as well. Okay, and we have one here called density. And what this is doing is it's actually taking all the text that appears on the page and it's parsing it in real time. And it's going to break it down not just in a number of keywords, but also into 1, 2, 3, and 4 word phrases. And what I like to do is actually filter this. So we can do it for the keyword single. So we can do it for containing the keyword single. And as you can see, it's broken it down into those 1, 2, 3, and 4 word phrases. And the term grants for single moms surprisingly only repeats twice on that particular page and has a density out of all the keywords and text found on that page. It's a density of only 1.34%. Okay? So when you're adjusting all the SEO properties of your Textbroker order, you can say, okay, this is what I want my landing page to kind of be like. This is the kind of content I want on there. And then I also want to include that keyword twice. And then you can do that for multiple examples that you'd like to cite. And that's basically how you can get keyword density information very easily just using another separate browser plugin. You don't even have to use it in conjunction with SEMrush, but they work very well together. And again, that's available at SEOquake.com. I'm just going to type that in real quick just so you guys can see. And once you've gotten to the website, it's going to literally just, depending on your browser, allow you to download that plugin for free. Okay, so we're almost over here, guys. Okay, so here is the final thoughts a la Jerry Springer. So to wrap this all up, there's two main things that I would really love you to take away from this webinar. And the first one is one that you have to learn from your competitors' experience, okay? They're constantly leaving a trail of clues whether they like it or not. So use their trial and error to your advantage in order to build an extremely solid campaign straight out of the gate. It's very important. And the number two thing is that tools and services like SEMrush and Textbroker can work together in perfect harmony to help you realize your goals much easier, much faster. So I really hope this has been informative, and I want to thank everyone in attendance today as well as Textbroker for giving me this platform to speak. It's been great. And finally, I'd like to give everybody a promotional code that'll allow you to take advantage of SEMrush's guru level account free for 2 weeks. So make sure you write down this code listed right here, and that is a 1. That is not an I. That's a 619. All right. Again, make sure you write it down, and upon activation, you're going to be asked to use a credit card, but you won't be immediately charged. We do tell you on the payment page exactly what date you'll actually be charged, so please make a note of it if you sign up using this promo code. And for those who are watching this webinar at a later date, this particular promo code is actually only going to be active until Monday, December 3rd, 2013, and after that you won't be able to use it again. All right, so that's it. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Yada, 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 questions, questions, questions. Okay, so thank you again. If you guys have any additional questions that you think of later on, or for the guys who have watched this later, feel free to contact me. My contact information is also at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Feel free to reach out. We're always here to help, and I love helping everybody out. Thank you.